Ooh, I thought I was gonna hit my mic. How's it going, everybody? It is Jacob here, and as you can see, I'm in quite a different setup location than I usually am, and that is because I built my own desk. That kind of hurt. But as you can see, I made my own desk, and I am super proud of this desk. This is something that I've been planning to do for a very long time. The original idea I had back over a year ago, last April, when I moved out of my dorm, and that's when this started. And then I started hardcore planning in like January and saving and all this stuff, and this has been in the making for a very, very long time. And I say that about all my projects, but that's because it's true. So being a YouTube live streamer, I have things just like everybody else does. Everybody obviously beats their own drum. They have their own preferences. But two of my preferences have always been, one, the triple monitors. It can be difficult to not have 3 monitors in my opinion, and I've heard of people who have 4 monitors, but having 3, having at least 2. 2 is the bare minimum in my opinion when it comes to streaming. You don't necessarily have to have 2, but it just makes your life a whole lot easier when you can see everything that's going on in regards to your stream. The other thing is space. Ample space. When it comes to streaming, you need a lot of things usually. If you got any props, any sort of thing, I don't know, I hate feeling claustrophobic when I'm live streaming because you're already in front of a camera and you don't want to be uncomfortable in the sense where you feel like you have no room, any space. So those are my 2 biggest priorities. Now, being in a dorm when I started streaming, there was no space. It was the smallest desk I've ever had to use, and that was no fun. And then when I moved out of my dorm, I got like this IKEA desk, which was way bigger, but still very, very constrained when it comes to space. And I'm pretty sure this desk is probably about double the area of that old desk. And there's even more space because now I have a triple monitor mount that there's no monitor stands. It's just one pipe right there, and it's so much more space. Even though I don't plan on doing anything with the space, I plan on leaving it empty. It's always nice for it to be there because it's just doesn't make you feel claustrophobic. So that being said, my goal was to make a desk as not big as I could, but as the size that I needed it to. I thought through pretty much everything that I possibly could when it came to building this desk, and it's not completely done. There are upgrades I plan to add in the future, but they're not like necessary. This desk is really simple actually because again, there's a lot of complexities, lights and all this stuff, it makes it feel crowded and jumbled, and I don't want that. I tried to minimize the wires that I had on the desk. There's actually 2 desks though. There's not just one desk. It's kind of hard to see behind me, but there is a second desk. So this main desk is 6 feet 2 inches by 32 inches, which is very large and actually is bigger in area than our dining room table, which is kind of cool. So I guess this could always double as a dining room table in the future if I wanted it to. Worthwhile investment. And then there's this smaller desk over here, which is 5 feet 2 inches by 28 inches, which is where I have my ultra wide monitor, and that's in my laptop for like editing. So it's just kind of like a wall of monitors. It looks really cool, but it's still like a very clean wall of monitors. So I did make this desk out of hard maple wood because I wanted, one of the reasons why I wanted to use a hardwood was obviously for the hardness, because say I drop an HDMI cord on my desk, I don't want it to put a chip in the desk. It might leave a little dent, but it's not gonna like take out a chunk of the wood. So that was one of the reasons why I went with maple wood, because it's one of the hardest hardwoods, which is a big plus. I also like the light color and so on. So the wood is very expensive relative to say if I was to buy pine wood, but it's a worthwhile investment because I'm hoping that this desk can last me many, many, many years and that I won't have to replace it because I invested pretty much, this is an investment. Like I hopefully never have to buy another desk for at least a decade, at least. And I can always repurpose the table and use it in something else. So that is a huge plus, which I'm very happy about. But before I get any further into it, I kind of want to show you guys the process that I did to make this desk, because in case any of you guys ever want to make your desk, you obviously don't need to make it out of the same materials I used. You can easily use pine or any other wood that you want. But this is the basic process that I learned how to make a desk. So let's get into that. So the first thing that I did was I needed to plane the wood since it was rough cut lumber. Needed to run it through a planer to make the surface really smooth. I went to a professional woodworker to help me with this since I didn't have the tools. We then used a table saw to cut down the sides to make sure that the sides were also smooth, and then the joining process later on would be astronomically easier. I then measured out the length of the wood that I needed. I went several inches over what I actually wanted the desk to be, and that was in case I messed up later on. So I just used a ruler and measured that out. And then I went through and I cut it with a circular saw. And I had, I think, about 2 feet left over since I used 8-foot planks of maple wood. Here I'm measuring out, or I'm marking spots where I want to use the biscuit joiner, and the purpose of the biscuit joiner is to allow you to insert these tiny wooden biscuits that are mainly used for alignment, but also slightly for structural integrity once you join the wood. So here I'm gluing, which is the main structural integrity component to joining the wood pieces together. And you gotta act really fast here because the wood dries pretty quick, but you just slide them in kind of relatively close. It's hard to get them all the way in by hand because it takes a lot of force, but once you get them all aligned, you then take bar clamps, and you can never have too many bar clamps, and you make sure that the clamps are all super tight, so there's a lot of compression on the desk to make sure that it's very well put together. Then went and used a razor to get off the harder pieces of wood, and then just used a regular scraper to get off the other pieces of glue that weren't so hard to get off. And that made sanding a whole lot easier later on down the road. I used just little wood filler to fill in any cracks that, or empty spaces that might have been left over from the joining, and then sanded everything down. The sanding here is meant to more so get rid of any unevenness between the planks of wood, and then I'll use a higher grit sandpaper later on, but here I used 120 grit sandpaper to get the rough process done. I then cut off, using a circular saw, that excess that I was talking about earlier, using a straight edge thing there to make sure the line was nice and straight. It was still a little rough in the end, so I used a belt sander to smooth up the edge there because it gets the job done pretty quick. I then went back over it with an orbital sander to smooth it out even further because the belt sander leaves it pretty rough with the 80 grit sandpaper that's on it. Now I moved on to 220 grit sandpaper to put the final major sanding coat on the surface to make sure everything was super smooth, and I made sure I took my time on this, and that way every single inch of the desk was sanded very thoroughly. Here next was to add on the monitor mount, which I just screwing in from the bottom. After that, I am here drilling the pilot holes for the floor flanges, which the black pipe attaches to, which is just plumbing pipe, which I decided to use for the legs. I just used regular wood screws with a really fat head on there so that they didn't fall through the flanges. I then did that for all of them, and now I'm doing the cable runners. So this is meant to obviously hold my cables in the back, and I just cut them to length and then very crudely put it together. It didn't need to be perfect since it's going to be tucked away in the back and is definitely not a permanent feature of the desk. At least I can always redo it if I desire. But I just used regular drywall screws to assemble it, and then gave it a quick sanding so that I didn't get any splinters or anything if I was to touch it. And then swept it off super fast just to make sure there's no sawdust left over. Then drilled in at an angle to actually mount it into the desk, and then just use the same drywall screws I was using before to drill it in. Here I'm sanding it one last time with 1200 grit sandpaper. You're supposed to go up incrementally, but I didn't, and it still ended up working pretty fine. Gave a really nice polish. It was pretty much shiny in the end, and then used some microcrystalline wax as the finishing touch. I wanted to leave the maple with its raw look to it. I like how just the maple wood itself looks, and so I decided that this was, for the time being, the best thing that I could use was just give it a nice wax coating. In the future I might change the finish, but for now I'm just going to stick with the wax since it works pretty well. And then the last thing to do was to just put the desks into place and then set up my computer and everything, and we were good to go. Alright, so that was the very brief process of how I made this desk. It took very long, but mainly because I'm not a professional woodworker. But also it's, you know, making a finished product is never a quick task. So I guess now I should probably dive into the things that actually make this a streaming desk. And the first note is the triple monitor stand, which, let me move this here. As you can see, there are 3 monitors sitting here, which is super convenient because how I typically work it is, let me move this mic stand out of the way. We'll talk about you in a minute, don't worry. So on this monitor, I always have OBS so I can manage the actual stream if I need to change anything in the layout. This monitor, I always have whatever I'm actually doing. So say playing a game, if I'm doing a Twitter Q&A, I'll have that on the middle monitor. And then my right monitor is always, the left half is for the live chat and the right half is for the actual stream on YouTube itself. Now we move over here, this is my editing station. So that is an ultra wide monitor, so you get that nice long timeline, and then my laptop, which is plugged into it. And then you can see I got my switch back there, as well as my Wii U, my desktop case, and everything else. And I put some wall decor up there, so just to tie everything together. You know, you can't gotta make it feel nice and homey. So you know, try to fill up that space a little bit because there's a lot of empty space back there because it's an L desk. But I think I did a pretty decent job. So that's that. And then over here. Can my monitors not go black? I'm trying to look good here. So obviously I got my mic on its stand, which I leave here so that when I'm streaming I can have nice audio quality. It's on its little arm, which is always mega convenient because then I can just take it like you saw earlier and just move it out of its way. That's one thing that I'd like to replace. I'd like to get a much higher quality mic stand if I possibly can. So then down here, so you can't really over here, wireless charger, set that down there, bingo. Down here, so there's my keyboard obviously, everything's gotta be purple, always purple. So here's my, my planner, which I probably need to use a lot more, and then triple monitor stand, cause like, that's very convenient. The arms are literally as long as my arms. Webcam up there. See, and I mean, there's really not much else to it. There is a power strip underneath the table in the back. So if I need to plug anything in, that's where the monitors are plugged in and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's very simple. It's not meant to be super complicated because I don't want it to feel cluttered and everything, and I want to keep the space as clean as I can. Eventually, I would like to get some sort of like organizer, like little file cabinet, maybe not a file cabinet, but like a drawer cabinet to put under the desk for miscellaneous things like my planner or my headphones and stuff that I don't always need, but I want to be near my desk within arm's reach. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much this is my desk setup. I mean there's really, again, there's not much to it, but this is something that I really wanted to share with you guys for if you guys are aspiring or even current YouTube live streamers, because or Twitch live streamers, whatever you live stream on, it's always nice to have a clean, spacious workspace, because it in my opinion, I think it helps make you a better worker when your workspace is not cluttered, and I'm sure that there's research done on that about having a non-cluttered workspace. Alright, so before we go, I want to show you guys some b-roll of the desk, because you came here to see a cool looking desk, and I guess I have a cool looking desk, so I'm going to show you the cool looking desk, because that's what you came here to see, a cool looking desk. That's a lot of cool looking desks, but here's some b-roll of it. Alright guys, so that was some b-roll of a desk. I hope you enjoyed the b-roll of a desk. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial slash discussion, whatever, the show off video. whatever you want to call it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Before I go, if you guys want to be a part of a new video slash series that I'm making, as you guys know, there have been a lot of Pokemon leaks slash rumors floating around recently. So if you guys want to leave in the comments, feel free to be as memey as you want or as serious as you want. I'd like it to be a really healthy mix between the two. Leave down in the comments what thing, what feature, game mode, whatever you think would make the perfect Pokemon game. If there was one feature or features, leave it down in the comments, let me know. Joke about it if you want, be serious if you want, but leave it down in the comments below and I will try to implement it into a new video that I will be making hopefully very soon. I talked about doing this in December, but I'm actually gonna try to do it now. So tell me down in the comments below, but that's all I got for you guys. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video slash a live stream since I have this nice new desk, but bye!